Where ancient wisdom and modern research converge, divine science emerges. Imagine a world where every plant, from the towering trees to the most delicate of flowers, contains a secret language of awareness. And what if, within their silent whispers, lies knowledge and connection waiting to be unearthed? Is it possible that the plant world around us thrives as a silent form of awareness? A living psyche, as many ancient cultures once believed, and that they harbor consciousness yet to be fully understood.
There's a raging debate happening in the scientific community around the consciousness of plants. Already the word intelligence alone, when we talk about plants, it scares people. The idea that plants are intelligent beings. And then when you move forward to consciousness, the human neurobiology world wants you to believe that consciousness is something that is completely relegated to the brain. But we know that there's multiple theories of consciousness. And so the other side of the debate says, no, plants are conscious because they are aware of themselves. They can take in multiple pieces of input and then make decisions on that input. In other words, adapt or accept or transform or change based on what's happening. So the idea that they have a self-awareness is really, to me, the core of consciousness.
In the past couple of years, you've seen not only mainstream science admit that consciousness is not an illusion that can be waved away, but even finally go so far as to say that animals possess consciousness. There was a great declaration that many scientists signed that said animals have consciousness. It's like, okay, welcome to the party. There's no reason why it stops from humans to animals and does not continue on into other life forms, including plants. In fact, I don't think you would find a serious researcher of consciousness who would completely exclude the idea that plants themselves are not conscious. Consciousness, in other words, seems to be attendant to all biological life. It reproduces. It's reactive to its environment. Plants have a kind of decision-making ability, meaning they will decide to move more towards the sun or more towards the shade or whatever it is that's the balance that it likes.
An intriguing theory, often debated in the realms of science, suggests that water has the capacity to store information. If this life-giving element is the essence of all conscious beings on Earth, from thriving jungles to blossoming meadows, could it be that plants, nourished by this water, are custodians of ancient wisdom, and perhaps even the secrets of humanity's very existence?
I think that it's actually water that is the driving force of all nature. I think Leonardo da Vinci said that. Now, I actually think that when we're looking at life beings, plants, animals, fungi, all of it, the information exchange is through the water, because nothing is alive without it. There is no life without water. When it comes to plants, the roots are what's picking up the information of the fluids within the earth. So we often don't think about that there would be water really in the earth. We tend not to think about it. But if there wasn't any, the plants wouldn't survive. And when they're taking water up through their roots, it's also reading the information of their surroundings.
It could be that the plants are responding to and signaling to its external environment, to the nature that surrounds it, in the same way that humans are. Meaning the operation of the microtubules, or connecting its cellular intelligence to the quantum field, is how consciousness is, in some sense, animating the body of the plant. There's even some speculation that plants might have memory. There's a particular type of plant that will react to it being touched. So for example, if you touch it, it will close up. But if you keep touching it, it will just become non-responsive because it's somehow learned that your touch is inconsequential. It's become habituated.
The Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Lab delved into groundbreaking experiments from the late 1970s to 2007. Using a random number generator, they aimed to measure the impact of consciousness on physical matter.
We had this room with no windows in it. And we had a plant that required sunlight to live. And we put it in one corner of the room. And in the very center of the room, we had a growing light. And that growing light was connected to a motor that would allow the light to shine only in one of the four corners in the room at a time. And the direction, the corner on which the light shone, was controlled by this random number generator, meaning that it's totally random and unpredictable in which direction this light is going to shine. We left this for about 10 days, and we were recording the direction in which the light was shining, which corner. The light should be shining in each corner about 25% of the time. But what we found that the light was shining on the corner that the plant was in over 35% of the time. Now that's a very stark difference between the outcome and the theoretical distribution. It suggests that the plant itself maybe has an intention. It has an intention to do what it needs to do to bring those survival elements toward it, including affecting the random number generator such that the light shines on it more often than it should. This crazy experiment where the plant seems to influence the light to shine on it reveals what life itself is inclined to do. Life seems to bend the world around it to provide what it needs for its survival and its growth. Of course, we don't know how a plant would possibly affect a random number generator. If a plant is alive, which it is, and if it has consciousness, which it seems to, then the fact that it has consciousness means that it's connected to the field that connects all life, that connects all things, not just life to life, but life to electron, in the case of the random number generator.
When we're talking about decision-making in plants, we're really talking about, do plants react to situations with an innate program? Some genotypic, something that's coded into their genes. There's a Pavlov's dog type of study. We train a dog that when they hear the bell, they start to salivate because the bell has been associated with food. This type of experiment was carried out by a researcher by the name of Monica Galliano. So what she did was she put pea plants into a sort of Y tube. And in this Y tube, she had the plants growing. And she associated the sound of a fan with the idea of sunlight. Then at some point removed that light. And what she found was the plants deviated from their normal, this is where the sunlight is, and grew towards the fan noise, saying that plants actually made a decision to associate themselves to the fan noise rather than to other things. So this is one of the various types of examples of studies that are starting to get carried out right now that starts to show us agency. The idea that plants are capable of taking in multiple types of input and then choosing which path they're going to take. The problem is not the plants communicating with us. The problem is human beings listening to the plants. Because once we start to recognize plants as persons with personality, our entire world changes. The clothing you wear is made from a plant. The chair I'm sitting on is wood from a plant. The food I eat is a plant. How much do I need in order to live a fulfilled life while still giving back to the plant? And how do I recognize their sacrifices for us, what they give in order for us to live?
In the endeavor to understand the unique language of plants and appreciate their complex, subtle forms of interaction, it becomes clear that their anatomy and modes of communication are vastly different from those of humans. Just as the human brain guides actions and perceptions, plants possess their own unique centers of intelligence.
We look at our brain as on the surface value, but if we look for the brain of the plants, you will find it mostly in the soil, in the roots, and the other aspects are the expression. So they communicate with each other either through the roots or through different interactions with the wind, with the pollen, with the different animals that interact with them. So, you know, the pollination from the bees. This is like a dynamic living entity that is not to be restricted to an individual plant, but to the whole ecosystem that supports them and allows them to interact with each other.
You know, if you were to somehow interview a bacterial cell in your gut, and you'd say, hey cell, who are you and who do you think you are? And do you think that maybe there's a deeper purpose behind your life? And it might hazard an answer, hypothetically, but it would probably never guess that it's actually part of a network of billions of other bacterial cells whose job it is to, you know, help process food and create serotonin for this person who has all of these other thoughts, feelings, ambitions, and lives that couldn't possibly occur to the bacteria in the belly. And so there's this kind of bias that we have where we can look down and see deeper interconnections at levels beneath us, but we're a little bit blind when it comes to seeing deeper levels of interconnection and holistic nature above us. And so plants are maybe similar in that way, where we can look at an individual plant. Okay, it's an individual plant. I can study its cells, I can study how it consumes water and sunlight and so forth. But you don't usually find individual plants in nature, do you? You find that they exist in an ecosystem of other plants, other types of species, maybe its own family of plants, and then deep down at the root level, they're very interconnected. These might be very large, very complex, very interconnected superorganisms.